1.4, Example 3. In this video, we're going to look at graphing an ellipse, which is kind of like a circle, just a little bit different. So the first thing I want you to do on your calculators is graph x equals 3 cosine of t and y equals 3 sine of t. And then after you do that, I want you to change the value of 3 sine of t to 4 sine of t. So go ahead and try that now, and then we'll look at it together. So if we graph 3 cosine of t and 3 sine of t, we can see this makes a circle with radius 3 that rotates counterclockwise. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change the value in front of sine to a 4. And we can see that it makes it a ellipse, which is a circle that's kind of been smushed or stretched. And if we trace this out, we can see it still is going to follow the counterclockwise direction. So all this does is change the radius of the y component, but still the radius of the x component is the same. So this is an ellipse where the radius is not the same everywhere. So if I change the number in front of cosine, it stretches it or compresses it on the x-axis. And if I change the number in front of sine, it's going to stretch or compress it on the y-axis. And it's a circle when both a and b are the same, when the number in front of cosine and sine are the same. It's an ellipse when they are not. Okay, so we have that the general equation for an ellipse is x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. And we can get that the x-intercepts are plus or minus a, and the b-intercepts are plus and minus y. So we have the equation y equals 3 cosine t and y equals 4 sine t. So if I want to go ahead and find the equation in the Cartesian format, I need to go ahead and get rid of t. So I know x is equal to 3 cosine of t, and y is equal to 4 sine of t. Well, again, my goal is to get rid of the cosine and the sine. So I know that cosine squared plus sine of squared is equal to 1. So if I divide both sides by 3 and divide both sides by 4 here, I can get the cosine by itself and I can get the sine by itself. So then I have x over 3 is equal to cosine, but I want cosine squared, so I'm just going to square both sides. So I can replace cosine squared with x squared over 9. And I can do the same idea with sine. So I have y over 4 is equal to sine of t. So then if I square both sides, I get that I can replace sine squared with y squared over 16. And that is equal to 1, just by bringing that 1 down. So then I know my x-intercepts are going to be plus and minus 3. And my y-intercepts are plus and minus 4 by square rooting those bottom numbers. And now what we need to do is find the initial point and the terminal point. So my initial point is going to be where I start and terminal point where I end. So I get for the interval from 0 to 2 pi, the initial point is 3, 0, and the terminal point is 3, 0. And if you're going to go ahead and plug this in your calculator to graph it, these are the dimensions that I recommend using. Your x1 is going to be 3 cosine of t. Your y1 is 4 sine of t. Your t min is going to be 0, and your t max is going to be 2 pi. The reason we use 2 pi because that would be one solid revolution around. Alright, on your own, I want you to go ahead and create the Cartesian coordinates and equation for this parametric function. I want you to tell me where it's centered. I want you to tell me the x-intercepts, the y-intercepts, and which way it rotates. So again, the things I need you to tell me are the center point, x-intercepts, y-intercepts, the direction it travels, and then the equation. Alright, so here we go. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is create my equation. So I know that the equation for a circle, and this is where I like to start, is cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1. And in this problem, I'm given that x is equal to 2 sine of t. So I can divide everything by 2, and I can square it. So I get x squared over 4 is equal to sine squared. I'm also given that y is equal to 4 cosine of t. So I do the same thing. Y divided by 4 is cosine. And then I can square both sides, and I get cosine squared. Then I'm just going to substitute that back into my equation. So I get y squared over 16 plus x squared over 4 is equal to 1. And remember, the number underneath the x is going to be the x-intercepts. The number underneath the y is going to be the y-intercepts. So then my x-intercepts are going to be negative 2, 0 and 2, 0. And my y-intercepts are going to be 0, negative 4 and 0, 4. And then what we want to do is go ahead and graph this. So we're going to graph it on our calculators. So my x equation is 2 sine of t, and my y1 equation is going to be 4 cosine of t. And I go ahead and hit graph. And if you notice, this thing rotates clockwise, not counterclockwise. It's going to rotate clockwise, not counterclockwise. And then if I go back to look at the center is at 0, 0.